We are seeing the fastest surge of inflation in decades, and the Omicron variant is threatening any progress the country's economy is making. Yesterday, I spoke to economist Dr. Mickey Ferry. He broke down this dramatic and continuing rise in prices, and he had some financial advice for us all in the coming year. So inflation rose by more than 6% over the last year. What are your predictions for the coming year, particularly given the rise of Omicron?
For the coming year, I will say historically, we try to target a 2% inflation. So 6.8% is the latest number. And I do expect that to continue a bit into the future for a number of reasons.
And what are those reasons?
Well, generally, the factors that contribute to inflation are supply, demand, and market power, which is, I think, less talked about, but just as important as supply and demand. Especially with the rise in Omicron, we may see similar supply shortages to what we've been seeing really since the beginning of COVID. And then that's on the supply side. And then on the demand side, we've seen really so much extra cash, influxed into the economy from the Fed over the last 2 years. While that may be slowing down, there's still a lot of excess cash that would contribute to demand. And on the market power side, it's really been a trend over the last couple decades that I see continuing into the future of large companies, especially having just immense market power, and therefore they can increase prices more than their costs are increases, which would also contribute to inflation.
So, what sectors are impacted most? What are we going to see in our daily lives in this coming year in terms of inflation?
So, like I said, the headline number was about 6.8%. And when I look at the biggest spending categories for consumers, food is right around that mark, a little bit lower. So your food is, your food costs, and I mean, this is a nationwide average, but your food costs, you can expect to see up about 6% from where they were last year. So that's not much higher than the average, and it's even a little lower. The one that's really just kind of ballooned that impacts a lot of people is energy and gasoline prices. Gasoline prices, the latest numbers are 58% higher than last year. And it's the highest gas prices have been since 2014. And just overall, a lot of sectors rely on gas and transportation and energy. All those sectors are about a third higher than they were last year.
Wow, 58% is pretty dramatic number. What should homeowners know? What should home buyers know? Are interest rates going to go up this year?
The Fed did signal that they will be raising interest rates, and it's from the Fed's position, it's a very difficult job to set the interest rates exactly right and set the monetary supply exactly right. So what they're trying to do is get inflation around 2%. What we want is a stable, growing economy. We really don't want to see numbers as high as 6.8%. Homeowners, I looked this up yesterday again, the average home price is up 15% in the last year. So if you own a home, that's a lot. You're in a much better position than you were due to this kind of inflation. And home renters, I mean, you can see rent prices going up by a similar amount too.
And what's your advice to the average American who's just trying to make ends meet? They see their grocery prices going up. They're trying to maybe buy a home. They can't afford that. It costs more to drive everywhere. It costs more to heat the home. What's your advice to the average American?
So if you are employed, I would really take this as an opportunity to, you can tell them I saw Dr. Ferry on NewsNation, or, I've been seeing these reports, and my cost of living is up 7% from where it was last year. And, make a case for yourself, talk to your manager, talk to your employer, and try to get a 5 to 10% raise. Because frankly, if you have not gotten a 7% raise in the past year, but your expenses have increased by 7%, you are worse off than you were last year. So you can use that, go to your employer, try to argue for a raise, and of course, talk about all the great things you do at work too.
Excellent advice. And are you optimistic about the coming year? Pessimistic? Do you think it's going to stay about the same? You said that the rates will probably stay about the same, but what does that mean overall for the climate of America?
So, I mean, it's a great question. If I could predict the future, I would be a millionaire by now and I'd be retired. So we'll say all these predictions with a grain of salt. And that is, like I said earlier, there's a lot of excess money floating around. The Fed over the last 2 years since the beginning of COVID has put over $4 trillion into the economy. And if you think about it, that's about 10% of our economy the last 2 years has been just sort of flushed with extra cash to keep things stable during COVID, which I think was necessary at the time. We will likely see that decreasing now that we have experienced several waves of COVID. I think we're better prepared to handle Omicron, but the Omicron cases I think they're already on pace to surpass what they were last year. So we will see more Omicron cases, especially over the next few weeks. We will see parts of the economy maybe shutting down again temporarily. And it's going to have to be what we have to do is be adaptable in real time to these changes that come in.
One last thing before I let you go. You hear people talk about inflation and the economy, that it's better to be liquid. Some people say it's better to invest in real estate, to invest in the stock market. What do you think for this coming year?
My advice always is to just diversify. Even within stocks, the S&P 500 is a great way to diversify because you own shares in 500 of the most valuable companies around, and then if you are fortunate enough to own a home, I like paying down your mortgage so you don't have a big mortgage payment. But again, diversify. There's stocks, there's REITs. Bonds are not looking too great compared to the past now, but that's my advice, to diversify. Diversify
and ask for a raise. That is good advice to leave us with. Dr. Mickey Ferry, thank you so much for your time. Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas to everyone out there.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.